A lot of people out here right now that have most definitely earmarked you for a long time as being an inspiration and a proprietor of a lot of things that are going on now. What's your feelings on that when I say that?
It's kind of weird because I suppose for the most part I kind of feel like a jobbing actor where you do a project, you move on, you do a project, you move on. So a lot of the time when you're focused on the next gig or what you've got to do next, then a lot, and also because of the fact that for the most part I keep myself to myself, what I've done in the past, for the most part, it's in the back of my mind. It's not something I consciously think about.
That's interesting you say that. I think that's one of the same with a lot of creative individuals that just want to push themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it? Do you feel like that was always an intention, the mission brief? Because when your legacy, it doesn't feel like you've ever stopped. If anything, you kind of, if just from that observer and somebody that had to go back into the vaults, because I'm a younger cat. I had to do some proper from early days. I wanted to know about who were the people that were inspiring my peers. You know what I mean? And yeah, you evolved and moved in different ways compared to a lot of other people, even further into your career, haven't you?
Yeah, it seems weird saying the word career, because...
That wasn't the plan.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for the most part, it feels as if I'm just making shit up as I go along. And after 30 years, it still feels like that. Yeah, so it's more of a thing of like where there was never... when I first got into writing, there was never really a long-term plan as such. Like, for me, it was like, wow... I'd been doing calligraphy. I'd always been doing, or been interested in creative lettering since primary school.
Yeah.
Like when we used to have to do like projects, like each term in primary school, like about year 5 or whatever, we had to do like a project each term, a new project.
Yeah.
Like I did one on aircraft, I did one on houses, did one on Native Americans. And each time I just like, I remember sitting there with like a pencil and ruler, carefully sketching out the title of what the project was going to be on the front page. I'd spend all day on it. And the teacher, she'd like go on my case and say, what are you doing? You've been spending hours on this thing, get it done. But I'd like take my time and stuff. And yeah, so I'd always been interested in the fact that, as well as like drawing Disney characters at primary school, I was very much into creative lettering. Secondary school, that switched to calligraphy when I was about 14, 15. Our teachers got us involved in that. Though with the class, he only did one lesson because everyone else was either bored with it. They started like flicking ink at each other, using the pen nibs as like darts.
Hold tight. Hold tight, my original ink abusers.
Yeah, so it was that. But I loved it. And I went to him afterwards and I says, look, can I do some more of this stuff? I really like it. And he was a bit sceptical. Yeah. But then he gave me like a set of inks and nibs and alphabets and says, see how you get on with those.
So what date, give me a date on that, roughly, when this...
That was about 1980.
That's actually insane to think you were right in the middle of the hip-hop explosion and you were given a set of pens.
No, but to be honest, I mean, I didn't hear about hip-hop until like 82, so this was like before that.
Before that way?
Well, for me anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, there may have been some people who had like relatives or friends or in New York, whatever, so they probably knew about it before the media explosion. But for me, yeah, I mean, calligraphy got into that. And for me, the most important thing, the thing that I loved about calligraphy was I used to copy out illuminated letters of like the middle-aged manuscripts and stuff like that. I was just like fascinated by these gold embossed letters and the swirls and stuff. And yes, I used to love copying those. And so like my teacher, he saw what I was doing. He gave me a lot of support and encouragement. And I just like continued with it. But obviously, I was like known as like the geeky guy who drew. So I was like the only one in my school that had an interest in calligraphy. But, you know, I didn't really care. I just like decided to get into it. And then, yeah, 82, Buffalo Gals video, which for a lot of people in Britain was like their taste into the hip-hop world or their window into it. And then from there, I just began to like try and devour information, like any little news article or cut-in or whatever, I'd be all over it. And then I remember reading a Life magazine, like, and that was like end of '82, and also they did like a best of Life magazine, the American magazine, and it basically had like a feature on hip hop. Like it had like one of the main pictures it had in there was a picture of A1 painting his name on a wall, and then some kid holding a stool and looking over his shoulder to make sure no one was coming, and that really stuck in my mind.
It's always those visuals that impact you the hardest. It's the music, whatever you hear it first time, you get your rocks off on that big sound, it stays with you forever. And it's the same with pictures, isn't it? You see something, it's so impactful.
Yeah. And then I began to read about what was going on the trains, and I thought, wow, I need to do this. But I didn't know. I was at school, didn't know anything about getting spray paint, any of that stuff.
Where to begin? Yeah, and this is an interesting angle because you kind of chose, well, I guess it's a route to any market, isn't it? As a young kid, when you see graffiti progressing the way it was, it's almost like, well, that's the most intuitive and obvious way to go about getting your work out. To a lot of people that are into graph, it ain't actually about hip-hop. It's more about actually how do I put my message out in a creative way that resonates with people at the time. Was that more of a case that you just saw it as like an outlet? Yo, this graffiti thing is making moves. Did you feel it like as embracive as that?
I don't know. I think it was a catalyst of different things. It's like a combination of different ingredients. That whole teenage rebellion thing, finding out who you are, trying to form your own identity or ascertain who you feel you are. I mean, there's who you feel you are on the inside, but the rest of the world, especially family and definitely parents, can see you as being something else. Like my parents, especially my dad, he was like, fucking, not swearing something, but he saw me as like a loser who, because I didn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, and I wanted to have a career in art, he thought, well, fucking waste of space, That's how he saw it. So it was basically a thing of like saying, look, this is what I'm interested in. I don't care who likes it, but I feel connected to this thing. And then when I started to read about what was going on, then I read another article about trains in New York and painting, and it didn't show any pictures. It just says people painting their names in big, bright, colourful letters on trains. And I thought, wow, I need to do that. I need to get some spray paint and paint my name on a wall or a train because it just spoke to me. And looking back, I think it's probably because of the fact that because I was into creative lettering anyway, doing calligraphy, into like painting illuminated letters, I think subconsciously my brain made that connective link. Yeah. Like from like scribes in the Middle Ages painting illuminated letters with all these swirls and connections and stuff to people in the States painting their names, big bright colourful letters, all these swirls and stuff. I think it just like made the link.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's like, cling.
Exactly.